Hello everyone, welcome to my bedroom. Don't think me letting you in here is an excuse for any funny stuff. First up, because this is a bit of a strange episode, some news. I have been getting a massively hideous memory leak out of basically any Feed the Beast mod pack at the moment. The launcher itself seems fine, but once I actually launch something, it starts eating up about 80% of my system memory and about as much the same as my CPU. I don't seem to be the only person having this problem. I don't know where it's coming from, but it currently means that I'm getting about the same frames playing normally as you guys see in my videos, which basically means I can't film right now. Moving on from that, as I'm sure you'll be interested, is Elemental. News on him. Well, his motherboard got sent back 2 days ago now. Ostensibly, it arrived at Aria's returns department yesterday. Haven't heard any news from it. It could take up to a month. I don't think it will, but it could. 28 days maximum. And then it will be getting shipped back, either by being virtually being fixed or by being a new one, I don't know. And we'll plug that in, hopefully it'll work, and we'll get our new shiny 3.2 GHz quad core and whatnot running, which will vastly improve everything. Here's the ideal. Meanwhile, as that goes on though, we're stuck with Bio and Hawk, and I have university work to do, but yesterday I had the joy of handing in my penultimate piece of coursework. I've just got one more piece to do, which is for the 25th, and then I'm pretty much free for the summer. Depending on what university says. I don't know exactly what they'll say. They might say that I have to reset a module or two. I'm kind of expecting them to reset one module. There's no two or so that I'm not particularly certain of. But I'm trying not to call, hey, I've won, I've got into third year just yet, because that is always a bad idea. But with all that said, let's move on to the main subject of the video here, which is I can't film anything in the server right now because it will basically be a slideshow. So I figured, why not show you a slideshow of some fun stuff that I can put together? And I've been tinkering around with a lot of stuff in the Chaosville creative world part, and I have as well as in my own test world. And it's a bunch of stuff for Monroeville for the most part, so let's get moving on things. So let me see, this one is the main line junction, which is basically the main line is the big long piece of rail that goes from the center of Supply Depot to the mall, connecting all the pieces in between. And originally I was planning on having it be 3 different lines. So we'd have two high-speed rails going in either direction, and a normal track that goes in between, just sort of a service line, so that you can ride a cart down there without worrying about hitting anything, or walk down there if you're particularly spry, without getting run over. Because locomotives will kill even creative mode players for some reason. But it turns out that's a bit of a problem when it comes to making junctions, because not everything is positioned like perfectly along the main line. So we need to make junction lines, which allow us to, like, curve off certain things. So I then came up with this design, which is only 2 lines, both, again, going in opposing directions, so that they don't crash into another. And what happens here is that there is a switch line, which, well, there's a couple of switch lines, really, which will send a car a certain direction when triggered, otherwise it'll just go straight forward. Underneath those switch lines is a locomotive detector, and that will trigger whenever a locomotive cart goes over, but we can also tune it to be specific colors of locomotives. So say one that has a blue main hull and a yellow bumper, for example, which allows us to then send certain trains carrying certain goods along into certain areas. So for example, we could take the train that comes out of Resenda Supply Depot and send it off to processing to deliver its coal supply to coke ovens and such. which can then be picked up by another thing in other ways. That then brings us to another thing, which is this one, which is shipping and receiving. Originally, I had plans that we would use just a long chain of chest carts and a locomotive to send goods from one location in Monroeville to another, but it turns out, using, just as I've gotten more and more familiar with using applied logistics, it's a lot better to use storage cells, because a standard chest has, I believe it's 27 slots, something like that, which usually just hold a stack, but if we fill a chest with storage cells, we can store gigantic areas full of stuff. So it's a lot more efficient to just have the one chest cart carrying a number of storage cells, and from that, we come up with another problem. Every solution has a problem, apparently. Which is that now that we have those storage cells, we can just plunk them out through an item unloader from Railcraft, and stick them into a storage drive for ME networks. Perfectly fine, but what if we only want certain things being carried to be taken out? Or what if we only want to transfer certain volumes of things? As, for example, we have Williams Warehouse, we might want to store the majority of stuff there. That is where this system comes in, and what's happening here is that there's the input line, where the train arrives and the cart unloads its storage cells, and it sticks those quite happily into the drive. And then there's sort of two different networks. One network is with the storage drives and is transmitting items across into the receiving network, which could be the warehouse or whatever it happens to be parked at. And there are two level emitters. One coming from the shipping network, one coming from the receiving network. The receiving network is saying, I have enough of this item. So it's got an item checker and it's got a level in it, and if it's above that, it will emit a signal. The shipping network, has got a level emitter saying, I have some of that item. And if it doesn't have any of that item, it also emits a redstone signal that turns off a torch, and it adds into a big long AND gate, which then triggers a pipe gate to pull out all of the storage drives. So if all of the items are unavailable or full stock, it will shove the storage drives back into the chest cart, and off goes the train again. A little complex, hard to describe, harder to show in a screenshot, but I hope you kind of get the idea there. I will be building it eventually anyway, so you'll get to see it then, and hopefully I'll have simplified and compacted it a bit by then. But that then brings us over to this other little kind of addendum piece, which I got from the Chaosville Creative World, which is the original design I had for Resender Supply Depots, like actual depot section, the part where it takes all the mob gubbins and sticks them into the chest. I'm not sure how to redesign that now, because it works pretty nicely. I mean, a train comes in from the top, and it gets split up into individual carts, and those get shot through into the different slots, and it all takes it quite nicely. Very fun to watch, that's for sure. And of course, there's a timer involved with the shooting the carts into the system, but it turns off when there is no cart. So that's pretty handy. It keeps the server less laggy. I kind of really like the aesthetic of those chest carts running around, so I might have them like dumped. I might have the items dumped into the chest carts anyway, and then just have them shot through to the center where they are then immediately unloaded and put into a storage cell chest cart. And then just have that shoot off. I don't know, but that seems like fun to me. But then that brings us to Williams Warehouse, which is more or less a bit of a tricky thing as far as the shipping and receiving idea goes, because Williams Warehouse stores basically everything. Everything that isn't presently in use, whether we can predict it to be in use or not, is getting stored in Williams Warehouse. Big resource supply dump. But what if we don't want to take everything out of the chest cart? Like, for example, maybe the coal cart from the supply depot passes through there as well. The supply depot and the warehouse are pretty close together, so that's fairly likely that it'll hit there before it hits processing. In which case, we don't want to take all of the coal and stuff out of there before it actually reaches its destination. That's a bit tricky, because you can't, say, take everything but this out of a storage cell, at least not just yet. You might be able to in the more recent revisions of Applied Logistics, but not the one that's presently in place in Dial 20 in Chaosville. So the way to do that, I think, is to have the I/O port, which is a block in Applied Logistics that will take anything from a drive and shove it into the network. You can also format a drive and have it shove all of that stuff from the network into it. But the way to do it, I think, is to have the drive be emptied by an I/O port, shoved into a storage, shoved into a drive. Getting tongue-tied here. And then have a similar system with the level emitters and the export buses to shove, say, a stack or two of coal back into the drive and then have that pumped out. That, I think, would be the trick, but the main feature of Williams Warehouse, because it's got this, like, big network of drives holding all the storage cells of all of its massive and largely jumbled, I don't think there's much need, really, to actually sort out all of the materials into different places inside of the warehouse, because that's not really what the warehouse is for. But there is a need to access it, and to observe it and see what it's like. And originally I was going to have that with a big, like, wall of barrels, because easy access. But Applied Logistics lets us do it a lot more denser, so I decided to go with this idea, which is the Williams Warehouse Monitor Dome. And it's basically I believe the measurements are 11, the phrase I think is order 11, half sphere, which means it's 11 blocks in diameter. So you sit in the middle and the monitors themselves are on the farthest block, which means that there's 4 blocks between where you're stood and any monitor, which is the maximum distance a block can be where you can still touch one of its faces. So that gives us the maximum potential number of storage monitors, and storage monitors have a couple features that are not really, like, noted in most tutorials, but I've managed to figure them out, which is if you shift and right-click on a storage monitor with pretty much any wrench, it will lock it. This means that it stops, like, receiving inputs. Like, if you right-click it with your open hand, for example, it won't clear. And the second thing I found out is that if you right-click them then with a conversion matrix, which is an Applied Logistics component, they basically turn into a barrel. If you right-click them after you've done that, it will try and pull out a stack of the item that it's keyed to and just drop it on the floor in front of you. So basically a barrel, which is pretty handy. So the design here is that there is this big sphere, this big hemisphere of storage monitors showing common or popular kind of ingredients. And there's also a crafting monitor, a crafting terminal, and a regular terminal at the floor where you're standing. Now you may notice that there is a pressure plate that I'm standing on in this image, which is directly on top of a piece of dark cable. And that is important because Williams Warehouse isn't going to be constantly manned. It's not even probably going to be commonly visited, because again, it's a resource dump there. So you go there, you grab your stuff, and you leave. Having it powered all the time is a really big, like, power drain. It's like if I have the just the ME network controller there, it eats up about 6 energy per tick, which is about 3 EU per tick, or I think 2 Minecraft joules per tick if you're using Buildcraft, which I might switch up to because they're kind of a bit more efficient. But if you then connect up all of those storage monitors and the crafting terminals and whatnot, it eats up 144 power per tick, which is one of the largest networks I've yet seen, and I plan to making some very big ones, for that matter. So it's a really bad idea to have that whole dome active all of the time, but it also gives a nice effect to turn it off when you're not using it, when you're not on that pressure plate, that Bedmon switch. Because they give off a bit of light, and if they're not powered, they don't show their items that they're keyed to at all. So you walk in, you step on the pressure plate, and then everything lights up, and you've got all these items around you that you can just grab and reach and whatnot, and it's pretty nice. So I think that's going to be like one of the main publicly, well, maybe not publicly accessible, but accessible, like human accessible areas of Williams Warehouse, and that's going to be really fun to make. Applied Logistics lets me make some pretty cool designs with things, which is pretty cool, and I'm enjoying it. I get to make some pretty designs that are actually, like, functional and useful. But that then leads us to the final piece today, sort of a short episode. I apologize, I'm trying to ramble as much as I can. Which is, I made a big tweet via Twitlonger, which lets you make huge tweets, about all of the things that I'm planning at present to put into Monroeville. So that's things like Romero City and Russo City, Romero being an actual like automated villager place, and Russo being an intended PvP location. PvP, PvE, it's a bit strange because it includes a lot of zombies. And then there's also things like the tree farm, which is a lot of these are presently unnamed, I should note. These locations I'm intending to all name after donators. I got, like, I think it was £1.50 from my housemate yesterday, so that's going to be interesting to name something. I might find him in, like, a broom closet. But, by and large, you don't have to donate. Donate. I'm getting tongue-tied. Yeah. This mug lies, by the way. Yeah, nasty coffee. Yeah, you don't have to donate vast amounts of money to get a building or something named after you. It's just a thing I do. But there's also things like the power plant, which is it has a name, but I can't remember what it is offhand because I haven't built it yet, so I haven't had to write it on a sign. That'll be Williams Warehouse will be overhauled fairly soon, by the way. But one of the other places is the bee location, the bee lab. And everybody does pretty much the same thing with the bees. They build like a big honeycomb, or they build like a big bee. They always do something which is so tremendously, like, cliche, I want to say, or just overly simple. Things that anyone can think up and anyone can do. And whilst that's not necessarily a bad thing if you're trying to build something on camera for YouTube viewers, it's not the kind of thing I want to do. I want it to be more industrial, and I want it to be more, like, productive and utilitarian and all sorts. So I don't know what the actual bee lab will look like in Monroeville, but I have been tinkering around with a few things. Because you can, as we've seen, automate the apiaries and the alvearies much the same way. But there's also a bunch of other stuff that you have to do, and the most amount of automation I've managed to find that is desirable at the very least is in inoculations, which is taking your bee serums and you're inoculating your bees to make super bees and special bees and all sorts. For example, when I was pulling off a recent prank on the Chaosville server, which I don't know if anyone's seen yet, but we'll find out. Everyone's been busy with Chaosville, that's probably why. But it took me like 10 hours to put bees through like 4 different serums. Not one of which was like a species or a magical or anything like that. It was just like nocturnal cave dwelling and effects and all sorts. But that took me like 10 hours to get through 10 bees. So having some way to automate that process would be ideal. And the two things you need to do then is to retrieve the bees from inoculators when they're finished, which you can see here, and to also then take the used up or empty serums, or potentially a new serum that you've gotten from a synthesizer, and fill it and then purify it, because filling it with charges reduces its quality, but the quality is increased by putting it in a purifier at a lot of power and some BDNA. These are fairly straightforward. I've put them onto the Feed the Beast Reddit, which I'm occasionally hanging around on, so you can maybe find me there if you want to talk to me. Alternatively, there is the Chaosville subreddit, which doesn't have much in it as yet, because we haven't found much of a purpose for it, but if some fans want to populate it, then by all means, go ahead. Dave and I are moderators there at the moment, so we'll keep an eye if anything unruly goes on. But feel free, that's effectively our version of the Minecraft subreddit at the moment, but nothing's really going on there just yet. But yeah, I'll link those 2 bee designs in the description, and you can have a look at them at your leisure. I'm still tinkering around with things. For the power plant, I'm thinking of using lithium, or at least I'm planning on having a variety of fuels that can go into the boilers to make steam at the power plant, one of which is lithium, and I've been playing around with that quite a bit. I planned the last FTB episode, which we missed, and then we had to have 2 consecutive Atlantis episodes, I was still having trouble with the server, but I then started having troubles in single player, because I recorded the majority of a video, and the face cam corrupted, as it seems to be wont to do. I'm hoping that I've been blabbering on for 19 minutes or so here, and it's not going to stick around. But the face cam corrupted, which took away all of my face cam as well as all of my audio. So I then figured, okay, fine, I'll overdub it, and I'll use just my microphone using the Windows sound recorder that I used to use. That managed to corrupt as well. I don't know why. I think my USB hub back here might be dying, because Hawk only has 3 USB ports, and that gives him another 4. But it periodically disconnects a bunch of things like my mouse, so that might be a problem. But for this, hopefully it's working, because I've just got the hard drive, the webcam, and the microphone as well here, hooked in directly. So hopefully this works, we'll see. That's about it for now. I've managed to ramble for 20 minutes. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've enjoyed taking a look at some of the stuff that I'm toying around with as well. If you like this, maybe I'll do some more Lying Tinkers episodes, or whatever you want to call this, I'm not sure. So sorry this wasn't on the server, sorry this wasn't in-game, sorry this wasn't, like, ultra-high FPS footage. Well, this part is, but the screenshots certainly weren't. 1 FP infinity, would that be? Is that technically the FPS of a screenshot? 1 frame per infinity time. But that's it for now. Next video is Saturday, and that's Atlantis again. So that will be episode 4. That's the end of our backlog. So we need to get back together and record more of that, because I'm having a lot of fun with that series. And apparently you guys are too. So by all means, like, comment, share, subscribe is definitely something to advise. But it's mostly the view count that actually, like, gets me, like, if you want me to get money from the videos, the views is what I'm counted for. But if you just want to publicize the channel, because I certainly don't recommend you just sit on my videos and F5 for like 2 hours, then the likes increase the view, the visibility of the video by making it more viewable on search results, as well as potentially, if you get it high enough, appearing on the front page of YouTube. Although whether they've messed that up recently, I don't know, because they've messed up a bunch of things recently. And the comments let me know what you guys think. So if you are not enjoying something, if you found something a little too long or dull, or if I rambled a bit long, like say for 20 minutes, then let me know there. If you enjoyed something and you want to see more of it, by all means definitely say that in the comments, because I do read the comments and I do reply to a bunch of them. So I do listen to you guys. I'm very much interested in what you want to see. This whole thing is basically what you guys want to see, and as long as I enjoy making it, I'm going to keep doing it for you. But that's it for now, and I shall catch you next time. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and or favorite, follow me on Twitter, and subscribe to be notified of future updates. You can also check out the website where most of the content is uploaded. That's all for now, catch you later.